Welcome back to Ironsights Podcast After Dark. Man, I don't even know what episode this is, but I'm stoked to be doing it. JP back in the house. What up?
What up, dude?
Good to have you back as usual. It's been a good day. It's been a good productive day on sort of so many fronts. And there's been some talk about gear today. We were kind of going through some stuff, some new equipment. I know you were out at the Gun Co. checking out some new gear, some new builds, some new innovation for some people, and also yourself with some of the stuff that you're doing. And we've been having some conversation because we've been getting a lot of questions that kind of brought some things to light for us about some of the newer people kind of entering into the community. They're getting introduced to different things, and a lot of that's gear because that's accessible, right? And they're sort of maybe the term we use is buyer beware and be informed before you're making purchases. And so we're going to cover some of those things tonight, like some of the things you might want to be aware of, and increase the level of awareness now that you may be entering into this community that obviously is centered around Second Amendment rights and the things that those represent, and the people and the things that are represented within that. So yeah, man, it's been some interesting kind of topics, some things that to me kind of just got my head turned a little bit going, man, I never really thought about that because I've sort of been around a little bit and I feel like I am part of this community. But if you're somebody that's kind of entering in and you're trying to take your cues from all the different places they might be coming from, social media, YouTube, influencers, the guy at the gun shop, the instructor at the range, this could be kind of a tough territory to navigate, to know what to do or know what to say or what to buy or what not to buy.
Most definitely. I'm excited for this episode because I was definitely that person, even though I do like my research or whatever on things. In the 2A world, especially, I noticed that it's really inconsistent and you can really like find yourself wasting money very easily. I guess that's more so what we're going to talk about is like where you put your money with our experiences versus like, you know, we're not going to tell you what to do. Right. But just maybe talk about some things that the way we shop for stuff, what we value versus like the things that I ran into. Like, for example, you guys know that like, John Wick was one of the things that got me into shooting.
Yeah, I always love these stories. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of maybe some products and branding in that movie that I was like, okay, well, there's in this movie, I'm going to start using this shit. Right. And I was attracted to it. Mm-hmm. And because I was attracted to that movie, started making parts or started running parts that are sold that were branded in that movie. And then started realizing there's some flaws in these, and just because they're in a movie doesn't necessarily mean they're the best, but they're definitely going to have the marketing because guess what? They're in the movie theaters. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, it wasn't the worst thing to buy parts from that movie, you know, but it's definitely not the best place to spend your money, and it wasn't cheap.
Yeah. And you learned, and I guess the point of that is now, you know, because now you're informed. Mm-hmm. Now you're a more informed buyer that can maybe make a better or different decision going in next time. You went a few steps further than that, and started a company as a result of it. But we can get into that too. I think it's important because I think there's some dots to connect there. But yes, and that was however many years ago now for you. I mean, think about all the new noise, right? Mm-hmm. And all the new, let's just say noise and even static that exists out there with all the different things that are happening, the way things are marketed now, how fast the innovation is happening. I mean, at every single level. I mean, so gear, clothing, we're not even talking about the firearms piece. Like,
no, that's important.
This whole thing that's going on right now with holsters and lights, with handheld lights, it's like, it's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, no, very much so. I mean, you can almost say that like, I've been kind of posting some stuff on social media that's like picking people's brains with like questions like, how long do you think small gun shops will be in existence? Or are they going to get blockbustered? And the reason why I say that is because they're never the cheapest and they're never the most informed. Right?
It's a very good point.
So I love going into a small gun store. Like, I love it, dude. It's an experience. but I also hate it at the same time because majority of them, people aren't informed. And like you said, technology is moving quickly. Now that the 2A world's actually like catching up with like business practices, and there's actual people who are driving the market, like they're being competitive with innovation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now things are pretty aggressive. So like if you go into somewhere and somebody's selling you a P226 Scorpion, they're like, this is the hottest shit I've ever shot. Okay, maybe it's a really good gun, but it's also a little dated. Mm-hmm. I think that's fair to say, right? And the Glock is dated, but it's also like people have done things to modify and update it, right? And people aren't really doing that with something like a SIG. It's not a bad gun. I'm not shitting on it. I'm just saying like that tells where you're from in terms of like time periods, how fast, like you can get lost really quick in terms of technology now. Like I think somebody was joking around about like EOTech making night vision now, when like 2 years ago that wasn't even a thought. Like anybody would have thought that. Like everybody knows EOTech from movies and video games and whatever, and it's like one of the best optics. But now they're making night vision like a couple years later. Like that tells you how fast things move.
It's very fast.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of ways to spend money for no reason.
I think there's questions to be asked about how is it moving that fast? You know, where is that money coming from to push the product development, the product testing, the product manufacturing, the distribution? Mm-hmm. Because every time you talk about those, and then the marketing, and then obviously the sales, you mentioned one place would be maybe a small gun shop. Obviously there's the online sales, mm-hmm. there's the larger, bigger stores, Bass Pro, and, you know, Cabela's, those kind of, that might just be one example. That's because we have those here. One of the last standing outdoors type of sporting goods stores in mm-hmm. California. But there's the private shops, as you mentioned. Every time you go through one of those pieces of the process, there are hands involved. There's a lot of money involved. And because there's money involved in everything, at the end user ends up paying the price for that. Mm-hmm. And what's happened maybe along the way with regard to materials? Again, the testing process, who tested it, what is the legitimacy of the product that's being sold to you, quality control, super important. And then again, we start to get into the marketing, like what's being said. That's always going to be a thing. Like mm-hmm. how much honesty, truthfulness, how the numbers maybe have been fudged. I mean, we saw that with the flashlight company lately, that handheld light company lately, that made some claims, and then there was some let's just say independent studies done, and the claims on those lights coming from the manufacturer were a little bit different than what they were actually getting in the field, which blew me away, which raised some questions.
Yeah, why? It's like, why are you even doing that when like clearly you have a high performing light? No one's doubting that. So why did you like fuck with the numbers? Also, I think Jerry did tell me that like Surefire has lower numbers than everybody, but they base their numbers off like the lowest number collected, so that like whatever their number is, that's actually their lowest performing.
Yeah, they're standard. Giving you the bottom of the curve rather than the top of the
peak
curve.
Of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those are interesting things to be aware of, you know, when you're purchasing products, particularly as they pertain to performance. But just things to keep in mind. And again, like, man, I don't fucking, like a year ago, I didn't know what a candela was. You know, like yeah. I had no idea. Now everybody's a fucking expert, right, on candela. Yeah,
no,
right?
That's such a good point.
Lumens, candelas, like what? Like and a year ago, maybe I did know what candela was a year ago. Let's go back 2 years. 2 years ago, nobody fucking knew what candelas were. Dude, like, unless you were in the light industry.
I think this is like we can talk about a lot of shit with this, like, because you're right, dude. There were, I think, a couple years ago. That's when people. One of many would be like Sage Dynamics. That's what that was like. Candela, I want more. Mm-hmm. Right? It's never too much. Maybe that's for him personally, but I'll tell you right now, my handheld mod light is not for searching. It's for blinding somebody and disorienting somebody. And I have like a cell phone light and a backup like handheld in a bag. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. So for me personally, my own use, more Candela isn't always the best, but my point is like, yeah, last couple of years, you have people collecting data like that, getting really nerdy with it. And they're just like more Candela, and they're making these videos that are like selling people on it. And I'm not going to lie. Like a big reason why I'm excited to talk about this is because I got duped a lot, dude. Because I thought I did research, and that research was actually just like people being paid to say shit. So just because I researched doesn't mean I found like legitimate, like wholehearted wholesome data. It was like people being paid off.
Yeah. And there's all different types of people entering the market, you know, and I mean that from a consumer perspective. And if you're an analytical buyer who's really studying the numbers, the data, and you're largely basing your decision of purchase based on those things, well, those things are fucking important. So where do you, for you, but how important are they really in the bigger scheme of things if you've never used one before? Right? You've never had any practice with one. You've never had any hands-on application with any of it. Like you would never find that out. You would never know that without that experience. And if all you're looking at is data and basing your buying decisions based on that data, you may be disappointed. And by the way, that data equals in this particular case for that particular light that we're talking about is a very big price tag. I mean, you're talking one of the most expensive handheld lights. I mean, it's borderline.
I will say that
it's borderline out of control as far as I'm concerned. It's a fucking flashlight. But the point of this is you could spend a lot of money based on data and still be very, very unhappy. And there's other things that come along with it. Like who is this company? Where are they coming from? Where is the shit manufactured? There's other things that,
there's a lot to unpack here. Like I said, going back to the movie to start this off, let's talk about how maybe some people, like I personally as a company, am trying to do everything to like do product development. That's what I love to do. But I also do love the media stuff. Like I like making the videos with like Chris or Eli or whoever. I like doing that shit. I find that enjoyable. But ultimately that stuff is just supposed to get my product development videos out there so people know that
you're using that shit.
I'm the one that's developing this shit, right? But I have a healthy balance of development, business, and maybe I need to work a little bit more on business, and then media.
We all could, man.
Yeah. So I like
those are tough things to balance.
Yeah, I try to balance that, but I make sure the media never slips, right? And so the reason why I bring this up is because something like the John Wick movies, right? You could say John Wick, pretty much everybody knows what that is. There was a time period when I only had, like one Glock, and I was like, well, you know what, dude, like I really liked what I seen in this movie. I'm a fan of the franchise after 2 of them have been out. And I was like, I think I'm going to go to one of the brands in the movie and I'm going to have them build out a Glock for me. And it was 8-month lead times. Maybe get more fucking gunsmiths. I don't know. 8 months.
Yeah. That's a long time.
And you're asking thousands of dollars for work.
Right.
But at the time, I literally didn't know anything else other than I know this works well. I see plenty of videos. I've seen it in the movie.
Everybody seems to have one.
Yeah, like that's all I knew. Like me building some Frankenstein gun with really no background knowledge other than my first year of shooting, like that seemed like an easier buy to me, right? Like I was willing to fork out the cash, and like I'm not like some fucking multimillionaire yet, Right. So my point in saying that is that like some of these companies I think have an issue with doing so much marketing and not actually fulfilling, their promises, like
it's unbalanced
through service or product quality. And that can mean like how fast the turnaround time is. You order a slide, dude, and it takes you more than a month to receive it. That's bad. It takes you more than 2 months to receive it. Why did you pay them money?
Right. I agree with you 100%.
You're not building a fucking 1960 Ferrari, dude. Like you're building I've seen slide blanks. I'm at Gunco all the time, dude. Like, sorry, dude, 3 months, very unacceptable.
Yeah, well, it's when you start seeing the thing that really bothers me is when you find out it's going to take that long after you've made the purchase.
It's after you made the purchase.
Yeah, after you make the purchase, like, oh, and by the way, everything's at least a 6 to 8 week lead time. What the fuck? Like, I wouldn't have just given you $800. Yeah, like I would have spent my time probably looking because it's not doing me any good. Like that. Yeah. Again, I think that's poor business. And it's poor planning, and you haven't done a good job doing the things up front to make your buyer informed about what they're getting themselves into, which I think is a major red flag. And there's a major company out there that I bought several things from because I thought, and I still think the quality is not terrible. I think it's pretty good. But I will not order anything from them anymore because of their inconsistency in fulfillment and their poor communication on it. I've done a couple things. I'll tell you what the first thing was. This is going to be, everything's a 2 to 3 week lead time, and it's taken 6 weeks. Okay, granted, now this is like 2020, or just coming in on 2021, people were struggling, right? You know, they don't have enough employees to fulfill things and do things. I mean, I'm a business owner. I was really struggling then too. So I was like, small business. We're all trying to get through this thing. It's a couple of weeks. I'll deal with it. The final straw was when I ordered the next, with a couple things later, when they said, okay, now lead time is 4 to 6 weeks. And at this point I was like, okay, well, I'm getting that because a lot of people were having trouble fulfilling things. So that's fine. But when the 8-week time period came and I was sending emails going, hey, can I get an update on the status of this thing? And nothing came back. And then on like week 10, we've gone ahead and refunded your money because we can't fulfill the order. Now I'm like, that's enough. Like, you've just been sitting on my money. You knew 8 weeks ago you weren't going to be able to fulfill that order. And even still, like, I sent you emails trying to follow up and I couldn't get anything. You just kept doing the whole thing. Like when you put your tracking number, your order number in, they kept just kind of, it's a shell game. They're changing things around. Anyway, again, like, there's probably a lot of factors there, but it's your responsibility as the business to communicate with the customer that's giving you the money for this. And when they're not doing that, I think what you're seeing there is a lot of times, and again, there are always factors, but I think those red flags will clue you in to a not well-balanced or well-run business. And I think, and this is my point, and I'll shut up about this. I think what COVID and the shutdowns of businesses and what it did was, if you were running a business that was sitting on not so solid ground anyway, what it did was it fucking exposed you. Mm-hmm. Like, there are good businesses that went out of business for reasons way beyond their control. But I think if you were running a messy business, whether it be from the customer service side, the product manufacturing side, distribution side, management side, whatever, all of those things, if you didn't have your shit together, you lost your business or you were damaged beyond what can be repaired. Mm-hmm. And I think what that did in this case for that particular company that I was getting these parts from was it just exposed, like, yeah, you're not as good a company as you're putting out there. And this was the final straw kind of that broke the camel's back. It would have happened sooner or later with all the innovation and all the new companies coming on board. You just got exposed. Anyhow, I'll get off my soapbox there. So I think when the pressure gets put on, you start to see the reality of, again, that savviness, that the people's ability to really operate and run their business. So, and I think that's what we're kind of seeing now with people that have been able to slide in some cases to the industry because it is so wide open and the pie is so large. Mm-hmm. They're getting in maybe a little deep, a little bit big for the britches, yep. And at the expense of the consumer. At the end of the day. And
like, I know it's not always fun to like say, hey, we're having a pre-sale, because it seems maybe a little weak, or like maybe it's like a feeler to see how many people actually want an item. I've done pre-sales, obviously being, like, I'm only like a year and a half into Train with Purpose, and I've done pre-sales in the past. I haven't done them recently because I'd rather just plan properly. And just have the inventory and trust that I'm a good enough company that somebody will come back and buy whatever's left over if it doesn't sell out right away. Mm-hmm. But I would encourage people to do pre-sales if you're going to be a dickhead and do like 3-4 month plus, turnaround times.
Just be consistent with it, right?
Yeah.
And then deliver on your promise.
Yeah.
Like that may take some practice, but also understand as the business owner, like, there's not going to be a lot of forgiveness if you fuck this thing up. Like, we're seeing some of that happen right now out there where people are getting really pissed off.
The thing that's interesting to me is that, like I said, I'm excited to talk about this because I'm not going to call out any like names really negatively, but there's some companies that our friends like recently have purchased from. And I was like, bro, I could have told you if you just asked me that I have a list of people that have had bad experiences with this company, whether they take too long to send you something, or they send an influencer something tomorrow while you're waiting months
why don't you have it?
On your paid product.
God, that fucking fries me.
Yeah.
Fries me.
I can't do it. And on top of that, there's companies that have showed me their shadiness. People have like showed me shit that they've done and like sent it to me and be like, bro, are you just going to stand for this? I'm just like, look, dude, we can all coexist, but I'm not going to like affiliate myself with those people. And there's like a good amount of companies like that. And it's going to be like that because people just want money. Some people don't care. And I think that says a lot about some of these companies that like really fucking care. You can see it because of like the way they talk about their product, them showing themselves developing it maybe or using it, rather than just like, okay, it's releasing, they take pictures with it, and then you don't actually have legit like turnaround times on when you get your item, or if there's inconsistencies on like I said, the numbers and things like that. So, I mean, obviously it's easy to say like, you can always like message you or me if people need help with it,
right.
But that's kind of why we want to do this type of thing, right? Like, I don't know if you want to go into like, who's killing it right now.
Yeah. I mean, look, I mean, we're talking about sort of like what's out there, and circling back, I think it's good to talk about a couple brands that are killing it and maybe compare and contrast against things that are maybe outside the genre a little bit or outside the industry to make it a little bit more relevant to, again, that person that's just kind of trying to figure out like, hey, I really want some of this gear. I really like what I see over here, but I don't know what to make of this. And I think there's some key points there that are pulling people into certain things. And those things, there might be other things there that are underlying that they're not aware of. And talking about the brands that are really doing a good job might make them more aware of, oh, maybe that's what I'm seeing in this company and I really like it, and I can back check this now and understand it. And I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. In my head, it makes a fucking great sense. But yeah, there are companies out there who do a fucking outstanding job.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've noticed, taking a step back and looking around, because I'm a fairly small business, not just like the term, but actually like I'm a small business. So like, it's easy for me to be like, yeah, I get back to all your messages and emails today. You know what I mean? It's easy for me to say that. But if you have, 30 plus employees, it's a little different. I understand that there's more moving parts. But I guess with what I just said prior, before we talk about like who's killing it, is like taking a step back. I feel like when it starts seeming like some of these companies that you love and trust are getting like big time, like showtime, there's probably a red flag. That's probably what that is, because how much hands-on development and quality control you think is really there if these people are now big time?
Yeah. So I think I'm on the same page with you in that you're watching these companies like all of a sudden explode kind of overnight. There's companies that are sort of moving into these IPOs, right? And they're all of a sudden it's a public company. It started out as 3 guys. And then the next thing you know, like you see a little bit less of that, right? Of those guys. And now they're just the face, on the front of the brand, but they're not really, don't seem to be seemingly involved in any of these videos you're seeing or with regard to product development, manufacturing. They seem to be hands-on at one point, but now it's gotten so large that they're having to take a step back. That is part of business growth, but I think there's things that could be red flags there. Like, wait a second. They're just basically putting their name on somebody else's product, and they're kind of, and now all of a sudden, so you got these 2 people that are sort of trying to grow together, but they're really like, where did this come from? How did this happen?
And I'm not trying to sound like a hype beast, like, oh man, they're way too big. It's no longer hype. I can't fuck with that, cause I'm hype. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is like, actually, how much time do you think they devote to development and quality control if they're so large now? And also things might look fishy because maybe somebody does make their shit and they put their name on it. Right?
Yeah, totally.
Like with massive companies or companies that are on the rise, right? Like if you have questions like that, ask them. That's how we fucking get more information.
Right.
I'm not trying to accuse people. I'm just saying like these things do happen. So don't think just because something's like super popular, like trust me, dude, like you guys know I love fucking Glocks, right?
Really?
And yeah. And if I was fucking hype, I'd go buy something different. Yeah. Because that's like the most consistent fucking thing. I'm just saying that I think that, if a company is getting really large, possibly fast, or even if it's not fast, like if it's getting really large, you have to think about how much involvement the people who created it actually have, and if it still represents the same thing. Yeah,
that doesn't mean that it can't get large, right? And get large fast and it not represent the same thing. But you go back to like what put this company on the map in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, particularly in this industry, because of how it's being marketed and how it has been as of lately, particularly in the, I guess in just firearms, outdoorsman type gear, there's always a face. There's always somebody behind it. That's not a new thing. But the customer, I believe, one of the biggest things you can do as a business owner is try to make that connection with your customer base. Like, again, you have to be, if you're relatable, right? If people can like want to emulate you or be like you or really look up or respect you for whatever reason, that's part of that, is a huge part of this. And I think particularly in this community now where people are trying to latch on to some level of agency, and again, the community aspect and all the things that word means, they really are kind of latching onto these individuals, and they look up to them, and I think what you may be referring to is, as the company gets larger, the things that got them there, the things that started them, and because they were doing that, they had a personal accountability to their consumer. Yeah. And as that company gets a little larger, they get a little bit further away from that personal responsibility or that connection to it. And I agree with you, that could be a red flag. And it doesn't mean it is, but it could be, or it might just give you a little caution flag to like, oh, where's this thing going?
Yeah.
Like, where is this going? And then again, how does it influence your buying decision? And I'm very pro small business, but I'm very, I guess, respectful. I mean, I really look up to a lot of these companies that started small, obviously, and got big, and somehow still maintained the ethos that they started with. But I think maybe to your point, that's few and far between. It doesn't typically stay to, the core values. They tend to get drifted away because you just put so many more people in the mix. It's like, it gets diluted.
Yeah, it's hard because you have to please more people.
Right, for sure. It's
a team environment, right? So even if you're like the head of the horse, like people have to like believe in you and like work as a team, or else if they start, you're going to have lower like quality product or, efficiency in the business if like people don't believe in like who the leader is. But also if you're getting product B now instead of product A, there's a good chance the company is just in a different direction now.
Yeah, and I think we're starting to see some of this maybe kind of pop up publicly if you're paying attention with some of the big brands that are out there and some that have a huge market share, and they're getting a little backlash about things breaking, right? Things not being, they're coming out with like this second generation of whatever their original was, and the second generation is failing. But the reality of it is it's the first generation of the second generation. And this is just the guy I am. Like, I never buy the first generation of everything. I let everybody go out and fuck with it and break it. And
literally the only time I buy first gen anything, because I'm exactly the same. It doesn't matter how loyal I am to a company. I'm not going to buy the first one if it's like actually something I want to keep. But for the reason of like reviewing and data collection, that's the only time I buy first gen anything. Like, you're right. You don't want to buy first gen.
It's just me.
Yeah.
But there's so many people in the front, like, I want the newest shit. And I see it all the time. They spend thousands and thousands of dollars
on the hype.
Oh, the new thing is I've just never been like that. I'm just not wired like that. So I don't get excited about it. The new shoes come out. Oh, I gotta have the new shoes, the new tennis shoes. That shit blows my mind. I'm like, I'm not excited about that at all. Like,
that's funny that you say that, because I feel like
the new release.
I don't know if I'd say it's a problem. I don't think that's like the right word, but there's definitely a thing that I've like poked all our friends about lately and posted like on social about it, like where the hype culture has gotten into 2A now, where people will be buying some like foreign made shit that's the same bullshit you get at Target, but it's got their brand stamped on it.
Well, that's what I was referring to earlier.
Yeah. And like, only 100 made, you can get number 46 out of 100. And then you spend double the price of your average shirt that's made by that same company that they went to. Right. And then I'm like, oh, what does that shirt mean, dude? Yeah. Well, fucking, it's foundations, dude. It's we donate. What are you donating to? Well, I know they donate to a good cause. Oh, who's doing it? X Green Beret. Wait, did he prove that? Or no, actually, wow, he didn't prove that. Oh, well, shit, where's your money going, dude? Who are you supporting?
Who are you actually giving your money to? Yeah, and so it's not really, so why the shirt again? Well, because it's, it's to a good cause, but really it's status, or it could be status, or it's FOMO. You know, I don't want to be the guy that doesn't have one.
Yeah, it's actually just a part of us as humans for some reason, dude.
It's weird to me.
I'm kind of a dick about it, and maybe I'm like snobby, but I can't fucking stand it.
I think I understand it in that, you know, again, like I want to kind of, it's fresh, right? It's new, and I want to always have the new, whatever that is. I understand it, but I can't get behind it. It's just not me. But again, now we're in this place where there's so much happening. Like things are being, they're just, again, being innovated and released constantly. And there's all this noise. There are a lot of opportunities for the new fresh thing to be out and people to want to gobble it up. And I think what we're seeing is, at least this isn't a negative thing. It just is what it is. You're starting to hear people go public or be vocal about, wow, well, this product actually really sucks. I'll stick with my old generation, right? Or yeah, that T-shirt release that they do 3 times a year, and you can get one of 100, just doesn't have the same sizzle to it as it did before, because people are like, yeah, I'm kind of over this. And so companies and manufacturers are looking for new ways and to get people to be excited about their products. And I think that's good. It's pushing, the envelope a little bit, but it's also, again, you're starting to see holsters break, lights break down, right? Things fall apart, gear fall apart, just not have the same. Again, maybe this has a lot to do with quality control or trying to save a little money, or because you were backed into a corner with things in the past, manufacturing, distribution, costs, things like that. You skimped, or you maybe pulled back a little bit.
The further I get into the industry and I start to meet people and know people who are in the industry longer than me, the more stories I hear, I'm like, fuck, I hope I don't end up like that, like where I'm allowing this decision to be made based off of how much I pay per unit, when I know I'm putting out a lesser product. Like one of these companies knew that something that I'm working on, they don't know me, I don't think, but something I'm working on, improving with one of my products, they knew that they had an issue with their product, and instead they just tried to trick you off. They just try to trick everybody into thinking like, dude, I swear this is the best way to do it. If you're a good operator, this is the best way to do it. And then come to find out, somebody who works in the same manufacturing space as them is like, dude, they just didn't want to pay the extra amount per unit because they're already the most expensive in their class.
There was nowhere for them to go.
If they made it even more expensive, it wouldn't sell. They're already the most expensive, but they sold you something knowing it was going to give you less options as a end user.
Right.
And they're still the most fucking expensive. I hope I don't end up like that. Just like I told you, the holster I bought, one of the companies I love. I fucking love this company, dude. Bought the holster. I told my friend, his first time shooting with me, dude, you should buy one of these. It's $80. I'll let you use it all day and let me know what you think. He fucking pulls it out of his belt in front of me, and the fucking steel clips come off the holster.
Day one.
Fresh out of the bag.
Right.
Boy, did I look stupid.
Yeah. Well, how disappointing is that for you though, too?
Yeah, I'm disappointed as it, like, whatever. I'll take the loss as like me giving my friend a suggestion for a company that's been around for a long time, that's been, that has a great name still, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, having that happen, dude, to end user, like, I don't know, it wasn't in the description. No one told me like, hey, make sure you check all your fucking screws and Loctite them. I guess now I know that after that experience, but that's a bad move for me to see my friend, his first time shooting with me, first year gun owner, and then he has that happen.
Yeah,
with such a massive company, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we're not dropping names, and I think it's probably good.
Yeah,
good, because hopefully they've made improvements to the thing. But again, that's a mistake that you've made, right? Or maybe not a mistake. That was a realization that you had, and now you're at this higher level of awareness of, all right, I need to be asking a few more questions. I need to be making a few less assumptions, and maybe I should be looking at other companies and what they're doing. And now you can compare and you can contrast. But again, if you're new coming into this, how the fuck would you know that?
How do you know that when massive companies, 2 massive companies, have completely duped me? And like I said, I thought I was well read. And another thing to watch out for is, I know we joke about like all the paid shills for like the companies that are supposedly like obviously cheap lights or whatever. Dude, that happens with even these higher end companies. Like they're paying people, like outright paying people to say only good stuff. So watch out for that, dude. Like I guess I'm an influencer, I guess you could say, but like really just like, I guess this is where training comes in. You know, I guess find out for yourself what works best. Try it out. If we can help save you money, you know, with our experiences, we will, but it's hard out here now. I would almost like say with the way, to go back to what we're talking about with some of these businesses, like not keeping up with like their marketing, like their marketing's great, but their production isn't good. I would almost say that they can take like a page out of the book of like Silicon Valley with like startups.
Yep.
If you don't have enough for manufacturing, why don't you draw some fucking investors? Why don't you become like a modern business? Right?
Right.
My problem with that personally, I know you and me and talked about this a little bit. My problem with that personally is I just don't ever want to like give up my creative royalties and direction. So I'm kind of scared about that.
I think that's pretty natural, man. It's your baby.
Yeah. So, but if you're somebody who's like, look, I got this fucking great product, I'm going to keep it the way it is. And if I had the right funding, I'd change the world. Well, fucking become a modern business and get some investors instead of taking people's money for months on end.
Pitch your product to the investors, not stop or slow down the pitching to the consumer. Right.
Yeah. Cause I mean, obviously if you're already selling these things like a lot and you can't keep up with production, like it's very evident with some of these companies.
Yeah. You might not be it might be getting too big for you, in which case it's on its way to the bottom, right? You're going the wrong direction. So maybe some tips and maybe some examples on things to look out for if you're, again, this person that's like, hey, dude, like I need some gear. I want some gear. Right. And maybe it's a holster, maybe it's a chest rig, maybe it's a plate carrier, maybe it's a new sling. It's all these kind of things, base plates, there's back plates, there's triggers, there's stuff that I'm looking at. There's so many things, right? There's so many things. And there are influencers out there and there are companies that are, again, doing a pretty good job at getting this stuff to market, but maybe some tips. And one of the things you said is if you're watching a company just get really big, really fast, not that you should be worried, but you might just be a little bit more cautious is what I heard you say. Like maybe ask a few more questions, like really pay attention to, or maybe slow down your buying or purchasing decision with those huge companies are getting so huge, or those companies are getting so huge so fast till you kind of see where this thing goes. As maybe one example or one tip. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that. I don't know if there's really a way around that. I mean, I don't want to badmouth people that are running fucking great businesses and are having banner years and are still doing a great job.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I would say that something that I've taken a step back personally and started doing, like I've said before, I'm a civilian. I don't have any military law enforcement background. I 100% value the things that they bring to the table. And I also think that everybody should value what the civilians bring to the table, because ultimately without civilians, none of these companies would exist, period. Without military and law enforcement, they'd still exist.
You're right.
Civilians is what they need.
Absolutely.
We pay the bills, dude.
That's who's growing these businesses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I see things like there's a company, like I've already referenced earlier, not going to say the name, if they're driving a fucking $100,000 car and like a sports car, and like I said, I personally know like enough people to count on both hands that they've screwed over on like wait times and then handing like influencers products, that's a red flag to me.
Instead of you getting your product,
you see what they're posting, like, oh yeah, I just pulled up in my new fucking GTR. Yeah. Sick, dude. Cool. Where the fuck is my slide? You know what I mean?
That's valid. If you're gonna put your shit out there. Right?
Yeah, if you're going to flex on the internet, dude. Right. So that's something I look at. Another thing I look at is like Haley Strategic, right? That's a company that I think has always been very innovative. As far as I know, none of their products they've come out with have been like below average. Anything I've purchased from them, whether it's soft goods or like the little CAG grip, has always been an upgrade. I've never had complaints. They're not always in stock, but they restock at a smooth time. Like I'm never waiting like months on end. Like I might wait 4 weeks for the exact color I want of fucking plate carrier stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That guy also has shown with videos over the last like decade or whatever, Magpul vids. He's also showed over time, not only where he's been in his life, but him fucking on the range and explaining why he develops things. To me, I'm not some Haley fanboy. I highly value that company. I don't even have a lot of their stuff. I have like maybe 4 or 5 items, but my point is, to me, that says like a good company. I don't know how many units they're pushing out all the time, but I mean, anybody in this space pretty much knows Haley Strategic, and it was in a zombie movie recently. So they're doing pretty good. Right. And I haven't heard anybody getting screwed over by their company. So to me, that would be like, I'm checking off all these boxes. Like, what's his background? He's showing he can walk the walk. This is his rationale for making these new items. He actually spent a long time to come out with his own fucking plate carrier because he wanted it to be done right. To me, that sounds like he cares. And then when you hear the man speak, like, I feel like there's conviction in his voice. Right.
Look, I mean, your gut's probably not wrong.
Yeah. So like, that's a company I would go to. I don't go for them for everything. I like the stuff I do buy from them. Right. Like they make the Haley Surefire light. I think it's solid. It's not below average. It's not my jam personally. I think it does exactly the same thing that a Surefire X300 does, except I can put that on and off my light. So it's not an upgrade to me. The reason why I bring that up is because they don't only make gold. They make some stuff that's just okay too.
Right.
But I feel like there's a reason behind everything. They try new things with quality. Right. And then like T-Rex arms.
Yeah, I think it's a big one, man.
Yeah, like, that's a civilian.
Love him or hate him, they're doing a great job out there. And I know Lucas is sort of the face of that whole thing, but they have a really good team out there. It's clear,
dude. They do. So like, they're a civilian ran company, homeschooled kids. Okay, so that's already like, when you hear homeschooled kids, you're already like, oh, they're probably kind of weird.
Oh, they're weirdos, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Oh, they're those.
You can hear all 3 of the brothers talk, though, and they all are weird in their own way, but they're all intelligent people. They're well thought out. And so, like, I'd say Lucas is probably the most, like, outspoken. Like, he'll just say shit on the fly and offend people. But most of the time, like, even when he offends somebody, I'm like, shit, that was right. I'd rather you offend somebody and say something right instead of, like, keeping that to yourself and no one's calling these people out. You know what I mean? I don't like Lucas's stance on fitness. I think he's like actually stupid when it comes to that stuff. But T-Rex Arms is 100% who I strive to be, because guess how many American jobs they created? I think they're at 80 right now.
That's great.
Created American jobs. Right. They don't make everything in America, but they make everything that they can in America
and they
America.
And they don't just do their own stuff. They sell other people's stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then they push like Hesco plates.
The stuff that they believe in. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. They push Hesco, Surefire.
And if they're doing that at the reputation of their own company with their own products, that is a sign, again, that's a sign that it could either be a red flag, they're desperate, but if you know, and you let me check this out. Let me see what other products is he selling? What other products is he repping here? When you go to those products and you go, shit, these things check out. I mean, these are good companies. But at the same time, he'll be really honest about what he likes and what he doesn't like about those products.
I'll tell you right now, JP as an individual appreciates the fact that he'll straight up say, I don't like this company because of A, moral reasons, or B, their product is not good.
He's being honest, yeah.
I appreciate that in the world we live in. You know what I mean? So that's who you want to buy from, right? Like I said, he has his mistakes. He doesn't do a lot of like force on force or any MMA stuff. So he doesn't know like the shit that I've ran into at like Rogue Methods, where people are pulling a whole ass holster out when they try to unholster a gun because they're wrestling with somebody. That's why you get like the steel clips. That's why you get different clips for wrestling around with a gun. He's never done that, so he wouldn't know that. But I'd say 90% of the shit he does do is solely like he might solely be the reason why like all these nerdy fucking American people who have money have all of a sudden just purchased thousands of dollars, plate carriers, body armor, nods. He's making it cool to be a fucking civilian, and he's taking all the backlash for it. And
he's kind of the whipping boy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like the industry as a whole, if you manufacture ammunition, firearms, gear, fucking nods, clothing, whatever, it's like the fit. You owe him a huge debt of gratitude because he's selling your shit, whether he's directly selling it or not.
He's the CrossFit of fucking.
That's exactly what I was just going to compare it to. That I had to kind of tie myself out there. That as a gym owner, as hard a time as I had with CrossFit, right? When it first kind of started, as a coach, because I just saw a lot of the bad end of it. There was so much good that came with CrossFit, right? And it's still there, right? You take the good with the bad. But I had such an issue with it. But at the end of the day, like, I owe them a huge debt of gratitude for getting so many people fucking fired up and back into fitness again, or ever, right? Getting them educated, getting them, feeling compelled to take care of themselves, all this great stuff, right? So I think it's the same. I think you can compare what's going on there. Love him or hate him, you should be thanking him.
Yeah, right? He's not perfect, but guess what? Without CrossFit, Rogue Fitness wouldn't be this American company that owns the entire fitness equipment industry, right? And they're innovative. They're building better bikes and shit like that, right? We wouldn't have them without CrossFit. We wouldn't have nods and plate carriers on all of our buddies that we work out with at the gym that aren't military and law enforcement, just because they want to go hiking with it. Yeah. We wouldn't have that without fucking T-Rex arms. Sure. So, like, I don't care what he said about anybody as long as he's not talking about your family. Like, dude, we need to, like, strive to have more companies like that are creating American jobs and bringing things to America to produce when it's possible. Dude, he did like a buyback or like a massive discount code for anything that was made in Mexico on accident for his plate carrier. Like, he actually started a lawsuit and everything for one of his manufacturers that was claiming is US made and then made it in Mexico. And I've seen one of the Mexican ones, the AC Unos, no different. It wasn't any better or any worse, but because morally he didn't like that. Right. So he gave you money back.
I think there's obviously a lot to be said for that. And again, love him or hate him, that is an example of a company that I would want to do business with as both a business owner and a consumer, for all the reasons that you just said there. And again, if you don't know who that is, then it's not hard to find out when you do some research on them, or on T-Rex, and you're going to find all kinds of stuff. And one of the things they do really well, which is something you mentioned, that I think good product manufacturers and distributors or product companies are doing right now. The good ones are spending time making sure they're informing the consumer of what it is that they have, what it is that they've done, why it is that they've done it, and who it is that they are and how they came up with it. Like why is what I'm telling you relevant? What is my background to be able to tell you these things, whether you're civilian, law enforcement, military, or whatever. They're spending time doing that. They're not being obscure about it. They're not being kind of like on the fringes, on the edges, or ambiguous about it. They're really upfront. They are backing their product in one way or another. And again, you might not necessarily like the person doing it as a personality or whatever else. I see some of these guys doing it, and it's pretty dry. But at the same time, like, God, like, it is pretty compelling. Like, they have this background, so they have kind of a resume, which is, that's not everything, but it is a good place to start with a lot of specific products, right? Depending on what it is you're going to buy. I'll give you an example. Like, for example, if I was going to buy like a plate carrier, a chest rig, I would want to make sure that who I was purchasing that thing from a design and product development perspective, somebody that spent a lot of time in a fucking chest rig and a plate carrier in kind of all conditions, training, like before they were even potentially an operator or a law enforcement officer or whatever, training in it so that they know what it's like for the new person to be putting this thing on, not having to figure it out, after the fact, but I've trained in this thing. I've worked in this thing. I've failed in this thing. I've succeeded in this thing, or, with these other types of brands or things that I was made to wear because it was agency or department policy that I'd wear this, and I had to modify it, or we found that this didn't work, or we really hated this, or we really like that. Bringing those things to the table, I think, is helpful for me as a consumer, especially as a new person, and being able to, as we were talking about the other day and a couple of other things, just bringing awareness to the table of, hey, is this relevant to me? Because maybe I'm looking down the wrong path here. Again, am I just shopping based on price? Am I shopping based on the fact that influencer is wearing it in that video over there? Or, it seems to be pretty, or all the guys out at the range are wearing it? Or am I buying it practically to work for me? So again, plate carriers, chest rigs, then, where's it being made? Yeah. So you just did all this product, development on it and all this testing, and you have this great story behind it, and this is very smart, but where is it being manufactured, and how are you making sure that all the things that you just told me or actually what's in the end product. And I think that's important for people to realize, because I think, go back to your example about the holster, like that seems very off from the particular brand. I happen to know who that is. It seems very off from the brand. So what happened there? You know, they just put their stamp on somebody else's fucking holster, and know they're not checking quality control. Why? Because they have nothing to do with it. They have zero to do with it. So where is that actually being manufactured, and how is it then coming back to market and then putting in the consumer's hands? I want to know that the person or the people or the company that I'm buying it from is taking measures, and if they're doing that, they're going to be talking about it, because it takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a lot of finance to control or to be part of all of those parts of the process. And if they're doing that, they're going to be proud of it. They're going to talk to you about it. If they're not, red flag.
So you know what's interesting about you saying that? I want to talk a little bit more about like backgrounds on people, because that company that we're talking about with the holster is like started from like a military background, right? And like I said, great name. They still have a great name. Now, T-Rex Arms, I've owned multiple holsters from them and only one from this other company. And not one of their holsters has failed on me. And it's one of my top 2 favorite holsters, T-Rex Arms. Like I said, I mean, for like the Rogue Methods courses, maybe it's not my go-to, but pretty much everything else, I would say that it's fast, good retention, comfortable, all that good stuff, right? But what's interesting about that is one company is selling their background, and one company has 10,000 hours of training on fucking YouTube. That's in the last 5 years. So don't tell me what you did. Tell me what you're doing.
Do what we're doing. Yeah. I agree with you 100%.
So like, where are we putting our money? Who are we giving it to? And why? Why? I'm not taking away people's background. You know what I mean? But I'm telling you personally from my life, 8 years ago, I never fucking deadlifted in my life. Right? But in the last 8 years, you can hear how much experience I've gathered and how much I'm trying to apply that to my life and everybody around me, and how much influence I'm trying to have in a positive way. Right? In the last 8 years, I don't want to fucking hear about 20 years ago, 15 years ago. That doesn't mean that doesn't exist. That just means that that's old.
It's dated.
It's dated. Right? It doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything. It just, that's why I'm saying T-Rex amazes me, because like 80 fucking American employees, dude. And like somehow the guy still has time to manage product development.
Oh, he's manic. That's for sure. I love that about
it's crazy.
him.
It's crazy to me, dude.
He's going all the way to the top, right? I mean,
so again, look, like, I mean, with social media, Instagram, YouTube, you can see what these people are doing with their time, dude. And if these people are selling you some shit with like one promo video and they don't have a ton of video to back it up, that's why I love telling people shit, because guess what? I have a library of the last 16 months. I can tell you like, oh yeah, that's interesting because I've ran that light and here's a video of me running that light. I like that. And I didn't get that on my own. I got that because T-Rex Arms paved the way for that type of business model. Right. So again, that's where I like to put my money. I don't spend I actually don't even own that much T-Rex stuff. Now that I think about it, I have an AC1 and I have like a ton of holsters.
I have a sling.
I think that's all I have from them.
I have a sling. That's
but
all I have.
Again, I'm a fan of the business model, the amount of education. Dude, they put a full rifle course on their website for free viewing.
That's smart.
I think that's amazing. They're not hiding anything.
They're not keeping anything too tight to the chest. And I think that's another tip is to, if they're keeping everything obscure and too tight to the chest or very tight to the chest, you can learn more about this by subscribing to our Patreon. That's a fucking red flag. Like you can't, we're doing this secret lease, be on this particular video conference or whatever to find out more about it. I get how they're marketing, but why is it like that? Mm-hmm. Is it that exclusive? Is that I have to, it's like you have to be part of some secret society in order to get part of it. All right. So go all the way back to the FOMO person, the person that always has to have the fresh new gear. If that's what you like to do, then fucking by all means chase that company around. I'd just be questioning, like, if they're keeping the things that secret, like why are they keeping it under wraps, and what's going on? If you mentioned the term, I think the other night, gatekeeping, in a particular area, are they doing that because they're trying to protect themselves? Because if they do have a really great product, and again, you've brought up T-Rex as a as an example here, they talk about everything and why you wouldn't want this product versus and why you would want this other product, whether it's theirs or somebody else's, based on the application. Like, hey, let's just get it all out there. So if they're not talking about that and it seems like it's like a secret society, fucking red flag.
Yeah.
Red flag.
To me, that almost shows like, that almost shows like a little bit of sign of weakness. Like, how much info do you have to give us? How much do you have left in the tank? Or is this just like a one-time gas tank? Are you like refueling? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to continue to drive on and innovate and like create new stuff and tell us new stuff and show us new stuff?
I think it's the blessing and the curse of being a small business that brings a product to market, right? Is you have to be out there all the time now. Like when I started Red Dot Fitness, going back all the way back to 2000, actually started coming together in 2008. In 2010, it was sort of legitimized. And I knew, like, at that point, like, it was really odd. Facebook was just starting to kind of come up, right? And I knew about it, but I had no inclination to have any kind of social media. Like, I was like, this is dumb. Like, I put myself out there.
I was like that too.
Who fucking wants to listen to me talk like about my day or what my dog, is doing right now? It was a fucking mind numbing waste of time to me. I still have a deep internal resistance to social media at a lot of levels, but I'm getting better. I'm really trying to work through these. It's cost me a lot of money in therapy.
It's scary that like we have to do this, dude.
This is crazy. So here's the point. The point is I didn't want the business to be me, right? I knew I was going to grow it. I knew it was going to be bigger than me. I didn't want it to be, Scott's Total Fitness, right? I didn't want the company to be me. I wanted to grow the company and be about the entity and the people within the company. But what I was told, and it was great advice, and I didn't take it, was, dude, you need to get on Facebook and you need to have a personal account. You need to have a work account. You need to start growing that shit right now because there is no more brand loyalty, right? That's sort of gone away. Like there is some level of that, but people they'll very easily jump to another brand now.
Yeah.
Like I think we may have talked about this before. Like when I was growing up, it was like either Ford or Chevy. And it didn't matter if Ford made a shit product, you were not buying a Chevy. Right. It's just what it was. Like, no, it's Ford. Whatever. That's maybe a poor example to the younger people listening to this.
No, I get it. Being into cars, like I fucking hate Fords, but I'm totally down for the new Raptor.
But so the point of this is, I'll get to the point. The point of this is people need a personal connection. I really feel like they need a personal connection to the people behind the company. They didn't really care. Steve Jobs knew this, right? And he put himself out there. And yet people will say he was an asshole. But you know what? People respected him and they knew who he was. And knowing that he was an asshole, they still bought his products. And I guess going back, like when you start a company now, right, and you go public and you're going to start putting yourself out there as the guy and you start putting your resume in front of the product, right, or the products that you're selling, you've now made your responsibility to be out in front of that product, continue to be out in front of that product for as long as it goes. Because once you're gone, then what is it? Because you built it around you, your resume, your background, your 8 years in fucking Afghanistan, your 15 years in law enforcement, your whatever. And so if that's how you're going to build your company and you're going to build it on that quote unquote reputation, well, you just signed a long deal and you have a responsibility to stay there, I think. And if you start to see, I guess what I hear you saying is if you hear or see people starting to step back from that and they're less and less visible and there's more and more products being developed and, it just seems it's getting
or maybe even products we don't need.
Yeah. It's kind of like, wait, what's this? This a fucking keychain now? Like, why don't you have a fucking keychain? That kind of stuff. Like, and it's okay. It's only $2, but keychain? Like, and I only say that because I've seen that shit. Yeah. Like it's this thing like red flag.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of a red flag. I think you got a personal responsibility and don't bitch about it. Like it's how you built your company. I did it. I didn't do it. And I found I had to do it later. And I'm still a little bit resentful about it because it's not ever what I wanted it to be, but it's the world we live in now. Yeah. It's the world we live in.
Yeah. It's so odd to me because like I've tried to have a really good balance of like showing my personality, giving my experiences like through video or just text or whatever and being there for people. to sell my products, but I also know it's a business, so I can't be like getting too far off the deep end on like my personal stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, there's got to be a balance. I'm talking purely on the business professional side of things.
Yeah, of course. So like, it's really weird though, because I think my business is doing better the more FaceTime they get from me and the more information they get from me.
Not surprised by that at all.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's definitely a balance. Like, I feel like I could be wrong here. I'm not like really well read with like Glock Store, but I feel like that guy, the owner, did a ton of video before like social media was like huge, and like that built the foundation of how huge Glock Store is now.
I don't know anything about that, but what I can tell you about the video and sort of doing some research on the companies you're buying from, one of the things you can tell right away is whether or not the story's changed, right? So if they've done or they've created media. Now it's been around long enough, and I think we're late enough in the game especially over these last probably 5-10 years, where you could go back on somebody's social media, right? And I mean, we've done this a ton in the last couple of years. You see people getting hemmed up by a tweet they put out 10 years ago, right? The point of that is like, what was your story then versus what is your story now? And should it have changed? Yeah, it's a journey, right? So there's things that are going to have changed, but again, is the ethos the same? Is the drive to do it still the same? And are you covering your mistakes? And owning up to those and telling people what you're doing. I think those are all things that we could go back and back check on a lot of the companies we're buying from. I do it all the time. Like I want to read the negative reviews as well as I want to read the positive reviews, and I want to see, are they responding? Because some of it doesn't need to be responded to, whether they're responding to the negative review or they're responding in product development. Like, oh, you see all these people over here doing all this, they're complaining, they're bitching, they're moaning, but man, you can see they're really making an effort to address whatever that is. And again, you can see that history of that timeline versus getting wrapped up in the sizzling marketing or what everybody's wearing on the range today.
I think, like you said too, like owning up to like some mistakes you made in the past, to give better information today is important, right? So like if you like, okay, so I know I'm talking a lot about T-Rex arms, but like he did a video on like why 1R1s aren't the bee's knees anymore. And how he used to preach like that's like the most efficient way to use range time. And now with more experience, he's learned that there's better ways, and those actually can create bad habits if you do them too often. Right. But I think that you can respect that, right? That he like took a step back and was like, I know I have all this video on this. It's not bad information, but it's not the best information anymore.
Right.
Right. And I think companies need to do that more often. And I would almost say like, even though like I'm a civilian, so it's easy for me to say like, oh yeah, like T-Rex is killing it. I also did say Haley, I think, is like really doing well in my eyes. But some of these other companies, like, I feel like if you have all that experience in like military, for example, you already started off with a better foundation than like me or Lucas or something like that. That's like developing holsters or 45-degree angle optic mounts and light mounts and whatever the fuck. Plate carriers. You should know better because you actually rucked because it was your job, not because me and the boys want to go hiking and say we're rucking, because that's what we do. We do fucking hike and say we're rucking because we want to. That's not the same as carrying a rifle around, because we don't do that in the woods. You know what I mean? My point is, you already start off with this. If you want to be a business owner and be highly valued in this space, in my eyes, in my opinion, continue to build on that. The owner of the Houston Rockets is always like, don't get fucking hit by the paddle. Don't rest. You know what I mean? Don't like get one victory and be like, well, fuck, kick the feet up on the coffee table and we're good. Like, keep building. That's how you become the best at something. Right. And dude, as far as I'm concerned, every time I watch a Lucas video, even if it's redundant and it's the same type of drills, dude, and I don't agree with some of his like intensity style drills at all, even if that's the case, dude, I'm still blown away with how much training and data collection he is truly receiving. Like, he has got hours, bro. Hours. Hundreds, on thousands. Video.
Yeah, thousands of now.
I think it's pretty easy to say that, hey man, he makes a slick plate carrier that's probably better than anybody who's ever made one.
Yeah, and even if you're going, yeah, but it's the highlight reel. Well, he's got a lot of fucking highlights.
Yeah, dude.
And so how many hours are you not seeing? You know, if all you're seeing is the highlight reel.
Exactly.
So I think that's a valid point.
You could do that if you're ex-military. There's not anything different. he's just choosing to be completely transparent about it. And maybe he's like a little bit more open about it. And some of these guys just aren't growing at all. And, you know, there's probably a part of that is that it's probably hard to want to grow after living that life.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like all of a sudden you're kind of having like success failure, right? You're developing products, people are following you, you're being propped up, you're making a little bit of money. And it's like, yeah, but I don't want all this. Like, I don't want to have to be, you know, out there all the time. I don't want to always have to be, this was my product. It was fun. Like, it was my passion for a while. And then it was like, wow, this was really good. I got a taste. And my lifestyle changed a little bit because I was making a little bit more money. And now that's not going so hot anymore. And I'm recognizing I probably need another product, but I'm not fired up about it. I'm not energized to do it. Like, I'm not feeling those creative juices right now. So what do? Let somebody sell me an idea.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
or I sell out to somebody else's product and I become their front man to pitch their shit.
I think you see that in multiple industries. You'll see that with music, with like other songwriters and stuff like that. What I say to that is that's totally fine. This is America. Do whatever you want. And on top of that, I also want to build like a massive business. So I get the fact that maybe you're over the training, maybe you're over the product development, but you're not over chasing that bread. That's fine, dude. Chase that bread. What I'm telling is I'm talking to the consumers and recognize if somebody's checked out like Jeff Bezos or if somebody's balls deep into development like Lucas Bakken. There's a difference.
Big difference.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, or even like Elon Musk, if you want to talk about something else, like he's clearly obviously developing things, you know what I mean? Somebody's rich and checked out and on fucking yachts and taking the juice, and the other guy's fucking maybe not in the best shape, but like the guy doesn't fucking sleep because he's constantly doing product development.
Yeah. That's a solid point. The guys that are really active, I think, particularly when you're getting something that's so personal, you know, it's not as if you're buying a pair of fucking jeans or, you know, I think a company, here's another maybe point, like to be thinking about that may be relevant or relatable, for the newer consumer in this market is think about there are other American brands that have done, or other brands period, that have done a fucking outstanding job, right? And again, whether you love them or hate them, you can't really argue that they haven't done an outstanding job. And how did they do that? Certainly there was things like innovation, yes, and quality of product, and certainly like style has something to do with these things. But what they really did was they put all their efforts and all their money, and they put their proverbial balls on the table with product development and making the best possible product they possibly could. And that's what they stuck with very little changes. And one of the big examples always comes first to mind to me is Apple. I already mentioned Steve Jobs. And that, I mean, when you think about it, I don't know how many products they have right now, but I think there's probably like there might be like 7 or 8 products if I'm counting like earbuds. Yeah,
like real products.
Yeah, but
just like
I mean,
apps.
we only saw the earbuds in the last few years, right? They had the plug-in ones that sort of came with your phone, but like those types of things, like they have their laptops, they have their desktops, right? They have their phones, they have some iPads, right? There's the Apple TV. Again, now there's some headphones out there. You've got your versions of the handheld devices, whatever those are, to the iPods and things like that. But look, those things came over time. And when they released a new product, dude, they fucking killed it. And did they, one of the gripes, the major gripes with Apple is that there's constantly a new update that needs to happen, or every couple of years they're doing it. Yeah. But when they come out with that new update, like, or that new phone, you're like, every year, every 2 years, I go, nah, I ain't fucking buying another iPhone until this thing falls apart. And then I see that new iPhone, and I recognize how many new things and how many improvements they've made to it. I'm like, fuck, I gotta get a fucking new iPhone. Like that thing is that cool. It's that good. The point being is they haven't tried to make 10 million products, right? They could very easily do that. They have the manufacturing, they have the distribution, they certainly have the capital to do it. But what they've really done well is focused on the product itself and the end user experience, and making sure that those two things are matched up at the highest quality every single time. And, I think when Jobs passed away, was gone from that company, they definitely lost a step, and you're starting to see things maybe some extra products came to market that maybe wouldn't have come to market before if he'd had anything to say about it. No, we need to do this better. No, we need to do that. Still a very smart company. I think they're still doing a pretty good job. But the point of that is they haven't tried to do too many things. They're trying to do a couple of things really, really well, and they really stick to those things. And I mean, you brought up the Bezos, conversation at the end there. They're buying up all kinds of fucking companies and they're ruining those companies. They're ruining them. I mean, you've brought up like Whole Foods down the streets, like my little neighborhood grocery store. I don't buy groceries there anymore. I can't fucking stand it. Every time I go in there, it feels like I'm in an Amazon store. Yeah. Like they ask for your Amazon card. Like it completely changed the vibe in there. And it was because, well, we got to grow this thing. We're taking over the world. And as a result, they're ruining the customer experience. They're ruining the product experience as well. But that might be a terrible example, but I don't think the first one is in terms of, hey, what are these companies actually bringing to market and what are they doing really well? And are they just starting to dabble because this particular product over here, they know they can easily and quickly manufacture one because they already have access to facilities, capital, design people and whatever. And look, I mean, if the whole world's fucking jumping on the flashlight game right now, like I can turn out a flashlight. I have machine shops. I got distribution. I've got things. I can source these materials really fast. Or should you just stick to your holsters or your battle belts or, whatever it is?
Like, I understand that people want to expand as a company. And again, I have much to learn myself and a lot of growth, but yeah, I'll say I'm not a fan of the whole, we should make keychains because we don't have enough products. Yeah. Me personally, things that like I have on the table that like I'm trying really hard to push forward, like with Gunco, for example. There's like I think 3 projects on the table and I'm like really trying to build capital for so we can get these things going now. To me, those products are only about function and improving performance on the range and things like that, right? And I honestly don't feel good. Like I get sick feelings in my stomach if I feel like I might be leaning towards selling something that means nothing. Like even my back plates or whatever, like I like that I made them as cheap as I possibly could to be accessible. So like if you absolutely want to do something to support me, something like that, I at least feel like not only aesthetically does it look really good, but the texturing and stuff like that adds a little bit of touch feedback so that you know where you are on the gun when you're drawing concealed. I at least wanted to feel good about like doing something different with something as simple as a backplate to kind of build my store. You know what I mean? But I think what we're seeing with some of these companies, like one of these large companies, that's one of my favorite trigger companies. I actually just bought more stuff from them, but they're making like odd shit like bayonets.
Are those popular now, man? I don't know, man.
What the fuck is that about?
I have no idea. Like people have money to spend on bayonets. Like,
yeah, so I hope that I never get to that point where I'm just like, I think we need a bayonet. Like that's like really cool and also really like, what the fuck? That's what you did with your time?
Yeah, are people buying this stuff?
Well, this brand, you and me both own stuff from this brand, and I'll continue to buy stuff from this brand unless they do something really immoral because they're just that good at what they specialize in.
All right.
But anyway, my point is that like, yeah, dude, you got to appreciate people who keep it simple and master things, have specialties. And if I can dabble in other things, like I will, if I can make it better. But I mean, I don't want to just put my ghost on any fucking thing just for the sake of having it, like,
or to make an extra buck and compromise the quality of control and the thing that you built, which is again, your reputation and your ability to deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think I told you that I made some like a small line of holsters with my prints on them, like my art.
Yeah, that was before we met, but yeah, I did because I feel like I've seen one with Eugene on it.
I've had a few of them. One of my buddies carries one, and I never released them, and I thought I was going to because like the profit margins were good. The guy I was working with is really cool, outgoing guy, a small business. I wanted to help him grow. He can help me grow. They came out really good. So any of my artwork you can get like stamped onto these holsters. But after running them a handful of times, they just weren't any better than T-Rex arms. They just weren't any better than like TXC. So I felt the world doesn't need any more fucking holsters if they're not actually doing something different. So I just fucking pulled the plug on the project Cause I didn't want to like have something that was like, okay, cool. Like now you have more ghosts. Like it was cool. They looked cool. They were cool for photos, but I mean, ultimately that's not what I wanted to represent. So like that was something I pulled the plug on that actually probably could have made me money, because people ask me all the time when they see the pictures.
So it's interesting. I think this brings up another point, which is what I just heard you say is a very American thing, right? Like bringing something quality to market. First off, you're doing it, right? Mm-hmm. And you're putting your name behind it, and you're bringing it out there, and you're not thinking global. You're thinking this is very personal to you, and you want it to be very personal to the customer that's in front of you. That's very, there might be a lot of people who are like, well, good luck with that, JP. You're not going to be driving a Lamborghini with that kind of a thought process in your head where you're trying to be that small, But what I hear you saying is like, that it is fucking important, and it's important that everything that I do and every step of the process and every touch point along the way with the customer, that it's all intertwined, and I don't want to compromise on any of it. And if it's not, again, making it better or potentially providing an additional benefit to my customer, then I don't want to go down that path, because I only want to push things forward in the best kind of way possible. It's a very American way to feel, and do. And I don't know, I feel like that. I'm an American. I'm not from some other country. Maybe they do feel like this in other countries. I just know what the fabric of, this country is built on, and that's one of those things. No, we take care of one another here, right? Yeah. Because nobody else is going to. And the problem is we've shipped off a lot of this, and we've given up that to a lot of other people. So it can be very hard for a consumer to know what they're getting, or, again, understand what you just said, because there's not a lot. And again, go back to this 2A community. There are not a lot of brands in any genre in the United States of America that basically come from that core that I just heard you kind of, say there. I mean, for a long time it was cars, right? And when I was growing up, like my dad, taught me to wrench on cars, and we wrenched on American made, muscle cars. And we used Craftsman tools, because we bought those from Sears. Sears was an American company. Craftsman tools were built, forged, and made here in America. And you know what ended up happening? They started making that shit in fucking China. And that
got lower on my list of priority tools.
I tell you what, like I
switched right away.
You will not find a Craftsman anything in my garage or in my toolbox.
It's funny that you say that, because before I had an understanding about how making things in America actually affects like our economy and our freedom. Before I understood any of that, when I used to just be in like high school and be all into cars, I was like, I don't want to fucking use like Harbor Freight or like Craftsman. Right. I was like, I want to use like Snap-on, dude.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's something to consider, when you're in the market for this type of gear, because most of these companies are American companies that you're gonna hear about. There are some European companies that are out there they're very active in the market and do a pretty good job. I personally don't have any of their gear, so I can't speak to it, but I think they're doing a really good job. I have seen their gear, I've had my hands on their gear, and it's really good stuff. But again, this is a very American thing that we're talking about here. There's a lot of countries that think we're fucking weird for even having guns. And again, talking firearms and the gear that comes along with that, these are very American companies. They're run by, T-Rex, 80 employees here in America or whatever. But how many of those companies that are of American companies that preach the American made, which we've talked about here before, are shipping their shit off to somewhere else where they're losing quality control? And it is kind of undermining the whole basis for why we're fighting for this right, why these things are important to us as a country, as a community, and undermining it a bit. And I just, that I know you have a big problem with. You've been very vocal about it before, and I don't know that people really understand that, especially as you're coming into the community, because this is the first time it ever maybe really mattered. Because if you're an electronics person, none of that shit's made here. I mean, I just want Apple. Nothing is manufactured in America, right? So this is a slippery slope. Like, I'm sitting here talking to you, through a microphone that wasn't made here, right? We're being filmed by a camera that was made somewhere else, right?
And it's my favorite camera.
It's my favorite camera too, right? So I mean, again, it could be a slippery slope, but in this particular genre and these particular type of products, doesn't have to be a slippery slope.
It doesn't have to be. Well, for one, why don't we take, why don't we take all this like freedom fighting military background and keep that same energy and stop sending our shirts out to China and then selling them for more expensive than my American made shirts. Yeah, because I know how much those cost because I fucking make American made shirts. So when you go out and you spend $5 on a Chinese shirt, stamp your name on it, and have thousands upon thousands of followers buying this shit, and you're riding on, I'm a veteran, I'm spec ops, I'm whatever, you know what I mean? What are you fighting for? Like, if we were talking about fucking sex toys, maybe no one would give a shit about freedom and where it's made. But hello, like the 2A community is like the front line of fucking freedom, isn't it? That's what we claim to be.
It's a solid comparison.
Well, I'm just saying, I thought of something super fucking random. You know what I mean?
I know. I've never thought about that. Yeah, like, GP, but I think you nailed it, dude.
But my point,
you're probably right. You're probably right.
My point is, dude, I'm sure I'll piss somebody off by saying that. But look, dude, you want to talk about your big dick on fucking training and why you're superior than somebody like Lucas or me, which, by the way, like I said, I don't do a lot of firearms training because I don't look to do that. I just look to make people better when I can, you know? But even with that being said, I'm confident in the shit that I say because I'm well read on things. But I also know I've never been to Iraq. I'm not going to claim to be like that. But if you're going to claim to be like that and you're going to ride on that shit, don't fucking buy Chinese shit. Don't sell Chinese shit because you're riding on, I'm a fucking freedom fighter. That's basically what you're riding on, right? When you're selling the 2A community all of this shit about how you fought for our freedoms. And dude, I have not lived the hardships that they lived through. So I'm not going to sit here and claim like, I know what it's fucking like, dude. I'm sure there's a shit ton of stuff I would never understand. You're just saying
it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to understand your message and you're making it really fucking confusing.
Yeah. Well, what it is to me is what's very annoying in any space, because this happens to me all the time at the other place that I worked at, fucking selective hearing. Like, you're like, oh, okay, well, today it matters that we're fighting for freedom because I'm selling you guns. But the next day, it doesn't matter that we're fighting for freedom because the profit margins on fucking Chinese shirts are amazing.
Right. It's lining my pockets.
And I'm saying shirts because that's like the easiest go-to for every fucking person.
Gotcha.
Right. But that goes into optics, that goes into lights. Like, I'll straight up say, dude, I fucking love Streamlight, and it's really hard for me to like get away from some of the innovation and price points that they've brought with the high level of quality. Cause that's a big thing we're fighting too, dude. I know firsthand from me buying American jeans, American flannels, making American clothes and products that like I have my hardships too, dude. And sometimes there's a Chinese product that's just as good as mine for cheaper. And I'm just like, well, holy fucking shit. How do I compete with that? Well, I don't know. I sleep better at night because I want to have kids and I want to have grandkids and I want freedom.
You got to do your best, man. You know what you got to do? Stop going to fucking Starbucks every day, right? Or 5 days a week for a fucking $8 coffee.
Yeah.
Do the fucking math. You got an extra $250 in your pocket at the end of the month. Yeah. Like, do it that way.
Straight up.
You know, make some compromise rather than the instant gratification or just fucking blowing it off. And again, I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. I just don't know that the people that are entering in the community right now fully grasp what you just said. Yeah. And I think so what you're bringing to the table is definitely a tip, you know, or a takeaway, which is understand the deeper roots within here. And we're not, look, if you want to buy, it's fucking America. Those freedom fighters fought for your right to be able to choose to buy that Chinese shit if you want. But think about it for a second. Like, does that feel right to you? Does that seem right? If that's what you want to do, you go right ahead. But at the end of the day, understand the impact that is going to have and it is going to make down the road, whether it's to the moral fabric, whether it's to the financial and economic fabric.
Dude, you know, because there's a lot that goes into it. Like, think about it.
It just gets easier and easier to do every time you do it.
Right now.
Either way, it gets easier and easier to try to find that American product if you're trying to work, if you're doing it every time. But it's also the slippery slope on the other end. Like, yeah, it's just this thing. Like, it's fine. I'm just going to buy the Chinese.
Well, it's easy to shrug it off. That's the world we live in. And we've gotten so deep into the hole of buying things that are like foreign made that tomorrow it won't be gone, no matter if everybody flipped a switch.
No, you can't turn it off.
This will take a long time to get out of, but it needs to happen, in my opinion, if we care about what America's built on, which is
how much gas you have to, or how much the gas that you put in your car costs.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
That is a very stop with the noise. Stop trying to pull the wool over my eyes. Like, this is stupid. Like, we have plenty of it. We just need to fucking tap into it. That shit's bullshit. But that is a prime example that everybody can relate to right now. If you think for 2 seconds the shit that we're talking about isn't real, the next time you go to the gas pump and you start filling up your car, there it is, right there, right in front of your face.
Yeah, dude. Like, think about it. We have this supply chain issue. Is that American supply chain or is that foreign?
I think we both know the answer to that.
Yeah,
like,
and that's what I'm saying. So, like, there's a ton of things that go into this. How many more American jobs do we have? How much more pride do we take in our country? And where does this freedom go if we continue to build a stronger economic, like a stronger economy for other countries? What's happening to ours?
It's clear. It's we're looking at it every day. I mean, without
we definitely got off a little bit.
I digress, but it is, again, if you're going into buying products, right, and maybe even services within the industry at large, think about those things, the impacts that they have now and in the future. Start to make these little, maybe ask the second and third question. Be a little bit more critical in your thinking. Who it is that you're getting it from, what's their involvement, product development, distribution, manufacturing, because all that shit matters in the end. It's all impactful. It all impacts us. And those companies that are standing loud and proud will be happy to talk to you about it and work through issues. They might not be the best at customer service. I'm not saying that that's the case, but they'll be happy to talk about it. If they're not talking about it, then maybe you think differently. Just work a little harder, ask a few more questions, at asking those questions and walking down that path of where is this coming from? Who's it coming from? Who's selling this to me? What is the history of this company? Where can I get a little bit? It's all there in front of you. All that information is accessible for you. Think about doing that. So when you see the ad pop up on Instagram, then maybe, as much as this maybe pains me to say, go to Google.
Yeah.
Right. Just go to Google and do a simple search. If that's the first step, great. And then from there, obviously there's a lot of other things you can do, but maybe have a look and where is this product manufactured? Who's manufacturing for this person? What is the history of this company? And what is the reputation that these people have? Because I think that'll guide you down the right path.
Yeah. What's the intent? And what can you see in terms of what they're doing today to provide the product? Right, whether that's them showing you manufacturing process or how they came up with designs, or
does it just look cool?
Yeah, does it just fucking look cool, dude?
Oh man, I think there's a lot there. There's a lot to take away. We did get off a little bit of a tangent, but at the same time, it's all related. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your take, dude. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, anytime.